Hi. So this is going to be a big one, okay? A big one. For feminists and people who don't like white people. Whether you be a male feminist, female feminist, and anyone in between, no matter what race you are, you support the dislike of white people or whatever the case may be. I have a question. How do you think black people got their civil rights movement to end up where it is, where the power of black people and people of color, they actually have it? Women, how do you think women's rights came into fruition, came into being? How do you think these things happened? The white men that you hate so much, that you talk so much trash about throughout history, in a male dominated country, a white male dominated country where white people owned slaves, where women were supposed to be silent and they were able to be thrown to the court steps and beaten by their husbands on the court steps. Okay? These men had to give up their power. They had to acquiesce and give up their power. Now, I will say this. Yes, women not having rights was bad. Black people and people of color in this country not having rights, all over the world, in fact, and not having rights, is bad. It was bad. But the whole feminist movement, the whole women's rights movement, would have gotten nowhere if it wasn't for the men who decided to give up their power to allow women the right to vote, and then the progression of that to where women were able to work where they wanted and women were able to hold seats of power in the government, okay, up to a female black president. I mean, vice president, I'm sorry. Okay, so the right to vote happened because men let it be. Yeah, it was a long time coming and should have been happening, but the minute you hate so much, the minute you don't think you need so much, let it be. Okay, people of color. The civil rights movement was successful because white people, white men, let it be. White men helped. White men were the ones who voted Barack Obama in office along with black men and women. Okay? Because let me tell you something. White people outnumber people of color in this country by a lot. So if white people would have voted against Obama, guess what? He'd have lost. But this country has progressed in such a way that white men don't care if a black woman is vice president, if a black man is president. All white men want is for equality in this country. And yes, there are some bad apples, there are some bad eggs. But this whole lie of men being oppressive and evil, of male privilege, of men mansplaining and not being able to have any conversation about a woman is complete nonsense. This whole conversation of white people not being able to understand what it's like to be black. Even though, you guys constantly, when I say you guys, I mean the people that believe that white people are evil, you're constantly trying to say what you know about white people. You're trying to constantly say that, yeah, I know what white people think, I know what white people believe and feel because I'm black. But because you're white, you can't understand what black people think and what black people feel. Like, it's backwards. Okay, it's backwards. But it has to be recognized that there are men and there are men and there are white men who are just as responsible for the greatness and for the progression of the civil rights movement and the feminist movement to where it is now, to the equality that exists now. Whether it's enough for you or not enough for you, it still exists, and it exists because a bunch of white men decided that it was time for a positive change. So the white men gave up their power to women and people of color in order for there to be positive change. So when you want to say that white people and white men are just complete evil, think about that and realize how wrong you are. Oh, and by the way, check your privilege too.